You think family betrayal comes with yelling and slammed doors? Sometimes, it comes with silence. With being left out of a moment you helped build. I supported my brother for years, paid his rent, co-signed his loans, helped plan his wedding. And then I found out it happened without me. No invite. No explanation. Just photos. Of everyone else. But I didn't go quietly. I told the truth and sent it to every guest. What happened next? Let's just say, they erased me from the guest list. But I rewrote the ending. Watch until the end. You'll understand why I don't regret a thing. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. The oldest sibling. The built-in babysitter, the homework checker, the shoulder to cry on. Jake was 5 years younger than me, brilliant, funny, impulsive, and from the time he was born, I felt like part sister, part parent. Our parents were loving in their way, but they leaned on me more than they should have. When Jake needed help with school projects, I stayed up gluing cardboard volcanoes. When he wrecked Mom's car at 17, I was the one who drove 3 hours to pick him up before our parents found out. And when he got into college but couldn't cover the tuition gap, I co-signed the loans. Without hesitation. After I graduated and started working, I didn't make a fortune, but I budgeted well. When Jake was struggling after school, I paid half his rent for almost a year. I Venmo'd him just until Friday money more times than I can count. I didn't keep track. That's what you do for family, right? When he met Maya, I was genuinely happy. She was sweet, smart, a little reserved. The first time he brought her to Thanksgiving, I went out of my way to include her, made her favorite dessert, invited her to a painting class with my friends. I thought we clicked. For years, they were Jake and Maya, and I thought of them as a package deal. When he told me he was going to propose, I teared up. Do you think she'll say yes? He asked over brunch one Sunday. She'd be a fool not to, I said, grinning. Have you picked a ring? He had. I even helped him finance it, he was short a couple hundred, and payday was a week away. I told him not to worry about it. When they got engaged, I was thrilled. I offered to help with whatever they needed, venues, food, even a portion of the cost. Weddings are expensive, I said. I want to contribute. Maya sent a few ideas for venues. I emailed back with more suggestions. I even made a spreadsheet with cost comparisons and shared it with them. For a few weeks, we messaged back and forth regularly. Maya seemed excited. Jake called me one night to say thanks. You're seriously the best, he said. I don't know what we'd do without you. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. But then, it slowed down. Updates stopped. Maya stopped replying to my texts. Jake seemed distracted when we talked, vague. Still figuring stuff out, he'd say. Not sure who's coming yet. It'll be small. I didn't think much of it at first. Weddings are stressful. People get overwhelmed. I gave them space, told myself they'd loop me in when they were ready. But a part of me noticed the quiet. The distance. And it wasn't just busyness, it was like I'd been slowly, gently, nudged out of the frame. Still, I didn't want to be that person, the paranoid, over-involved older sister. I kept my thoughts to myself. I even sent them a wine gift basket with a note, take breaks when you can. Planning a wedding is hard, don't forget to enjoy it. No reply. Not even a thanks. That was the first time something sank in my chest like a cold stone. But I shook it off. They were probably just busy. Right? A month went by. Then 2. Every time I tried to bring up the wedding, I got vague half-answers. Still finalizing things. Just keeping it low-key. Not sure if we're even doing a big event. But then I saw Maya's Pinterest board. I wasn't even snooping. It popped up in a suggested link from an old message. It was public. Titled, M&M 2024 Wedding Ring. Hundreds of pins. Dresses, centerpieces, elaborate table setups, vineyard shots with fairy lights. Definitely not low-key. Definitely not undecided. I stared at it for 10 minutes, scrolling through their dream plans that I apparently wasn't part of. I texted Jake casually, "Any updates on the big day? Just want to know if I should hold any dates." He replied 4 hours later. "Not sure yet. Maya's been doing most of the planning." That was it. No emoji. No detail. I didn't push. I didn't want to come off as desperate to be included. But something felt wrong. A week later, I ran into our cousin Nina at a farmer's market. "So excited for Jake and Maya's wedding," she said, beaming. "Are you in the bridal party?" I blinked. "What wedding?" Her smile froze. "Oh. I thought. Sorry, I just assumed." That night, I asked Jake again. "Is there a set date?" I heard from Nina that things are moving forward. He said, "We haven't finalized anything. Probably something small. We're still deciding." I wanted to believe him. Maybe Maya was just excited and overpinning. Maybe Nina heard wrong. But the silence was too heavy. The distance too sharp. Then, one Saturday morning, I was scrolling Facebook, half awake, coffee in hand. That's when I saw it. A post from a cousin we barely see. "What a beautiful wedding. So happy for Jake and Maya." I froze. I clicked the post. A photo. Jake in a navy suit, Maya in a flowing lace gown. They stood under an arch of flowers, kissing. The caption said, "Yesterday was magic." Yesterday. They got married yesterday. I hadn't been invited. Not even told. My heart dropped into my stomach. I checked my texts. Nothing. Email? Empty. I even searched spam folders. Nothing. I opened Instagram. Searched for Maya. Blocked. I sat on my bed for a full hour, phone in hand, trying to make it make sense. Refreshing, scrolling, double-checking. But no matter how I turned it, the truth stood there like a wall I couldn't climb. They got married. They planned it for months. They invited our extended family. And they never told me. My hands were shaking. Not in anger, not yet. Just stunned. Like someone had reached inside and pulled out the core of everything I thought I knew. Why? Why wouldn't they tell me? Then I texted my best friend Claire and asked, "Can you check if you can still see Maya's Instagram?" She replied a few minutes later with 3 screenshots. Photos from the wedding. Not just a ceremony, a full-scale event at a vineyard. String lights, catered food, a dance floor, a bar. Bridesmaids and groomsmen. Our parents were there. Our cousins. Childhood friends. People I hadn't seen in years. Everyone but me. And I hadn't just been left out. I'd been erased. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, numb, scrolling through the photos on Claire's phone. Her screen recordings of Maya's story showed clips of the first dance, the cake cutting, Jake laughing with a group of our cousins. People I'd grown up with. People who used to call me Lenny and come to me for advice. And there they were, toasting my brother and his new wife on a day I didn't even know was happening. I wanted to call someone. Ask for an explanation. But I didn't trust myself to speak without shattering. So I waited. The next day, I refreshed the wedding photos again, almost obsessively. Some guests had tagged the location. A vineyard a few hours out of town. Others tagged each other in group shots. And then I saw it. A post from a girl I barely knew, an old college friend of Maya's, captioned, "Stunning day. Still thinking about that RSVP card with the handwritten return address, such a cute touch." I clicked the photo. Zoomed in. It was the RSVP envelope. The return address was handwritten. My old apartment. The one I'd moved out of 2 years ago, but had once offered for wedding-related mail, back when they were figuring things out and didn't want to use their own. I had offered it casually. If you need a return address for RSVPs or anything wedding related, feel free to use mine. They'd both thanked me at the time. And now I saw it. In cursive. My handwriting. On dozens of envelopes. They had accepted the offer. They used my address. They used my help. And then they ghosted me. Discarded me like a tool they no longer needed. I was good enough to collect their mail, to co-sign a loan, to float their rent when they were scrambling, but not good enough to witness their vows. Not good enough to sit in the back row. I didn't scream. I didn't rage post. I started documenting. Every Venmo payment. Screenshots of old text threads where I offered help. The email with the venue spreadsheet. The thank you message Jake sent when I sent the wine basket. I went back through it all, building a quiet archive of everything I had given. Not to use against them. Just so I could see it clearly, all the pieces of myself I had handed over in love. And then I checked the wedding website. Claire found it again, still live. The RSVP section had been closed. The registry wiped clean. But one link still worked: send a message to the couple or wedding guests. It let you write a message that would go out to everyone on their guest list. One simple email field. One box. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to unload. To tear them apart. To scream with my fingers. But something in me stopped. I didn't want to be dramatic. I didn't want to be dismissed as bitter or attention-seeking. I wanted to be honest. So I wrote. If you're receiving this, it's because you attended Jake and Maya's wedding. I hope it was beautiful. I wasn't there, not by choice. I was never invited. After years of emotional and financial support to both of them, I was quietly erased from this celebration. My RSVP address was used. My offers accepted. And then, silence. This isn't a plea. This isn't drama. This is the truth. The sister they forgot. But not quietly. Then I hit send. And I waited. The first reply came an hour later. It was from Aunt Carol. She said, "I'm shocked. I had no idea you weren't there by choice. I thought maybe you were traveling or sick. I feel sick myself now. I'm so sorry, Lena." Then another, "I assumed you'd be standing up there next to them. This makes no sense." Within a day, I had over 20 messages. Some were short and stunned. Some long and heartfelt. A few cousins admitted they felt weird when I wasn't there. "It didn't feel right without you," one wrote. "You're always the one holding the family together." A groomsman messaged, "I don't know you well, but I heard your name mentioned, like you were too busy to make it. This is messed up. You deserved better." Then came the voicemail from Mom. "Lena, honey. I had no idea you weren't invited. Jake told us it was going to be small. Just close friends and immediate family. I assumed you declined for personal reasons. I'm so sorry." I called her back. Calm. Controlled. "Did you count how many guests were there?" I asked. She hesitated. I think it was about 80? 84, I said. 84 people. I counted. Silence. Jake told me it would just be a courthouse thing. That Maya was anxious about a crowd. She didn't look anxious in the videos. "Lena. I'm not angry at you," I said. "But don't lie to cover for him. You can love him and still admit he hurt me." That shut her up. Later that night, my phone lit up. "Jake." I let it go to voicemail. Then he texted, "What the hell, Lena? Why would you send that? You embarrassed us in front of everyone." I stared at the screen. My thumbs hovered. And then I typed. "I didn't embarrass you. I told the truth. You were just hoping no one would hear it." He called again. This time I picked up. His voice was sharp. Defensive. Why would you do that? You've always been the one who keeps the peace. Since when are you this vindictive? You mean since I stopped being quiet about how I'm treated? He exhaled hard. It wasn't personal. You planned a wedding. You sent invites. You used my address. You blocked me. How is that not personal? He was quiet. I helped you, Jake. Over and over. I supported you when you were broke. I helped you plan this wedding. And you decided I wasn't worthy of a seat. I didn't want drama, Lena. You created it. I just narrated it. He hung up. For the next few days, I saw the ripple effect. A few of Maya's friends posted cryptic stories. Some people just can't stand not being the center of attention. Another, keep family drama offline, it's classier. I didn't respond. But then something surprising happened. Someone I didn't know, a +1 from the wedding, messaged me privately. Hi. You don't know me. I was a guest of one of Jake's friends. I just want to say, what you wrote. It was powerful. If people can't be honest about their guest list, maybe their vows aren't the only lie they're telling. Wishing you peace. I read it twice. Then 3 more guests messaged something similar. One even said they wished they hadn't gone. And while I wasn't out for revenge, I won't lie, there was a quiet, aching satisfaction in that. Not because they were suffering. But because, finally, I was being seen. The fallout didn't stop. It kept building quietly, in corners of group chats and subtle whispers at family dinners I didn't attend. Aunt Carol apparently confronted my parents. My cousin Sarah texted me, I can't believe they lie to everyone. I'm sorry I didn't ask more questions. Even Claire, my best friend who had only known Jake through me, said, I always thought he was a little selfish, but this? This is next level. My parents kept trying to play peacekeepers. First mom, then dad. The old scripts, family is complicated. It was probably Maya's decision. Let's not make things worse. But I was done being the glue. Done being the sister who swallowed pain to keep the picture intact. I didn't answer most of their calls. When I finally did, I kept it brief. I'm not doing this anymore, I told them. You don't have to pick sides. But you also don't get to minimize what happened. But he's your brother, Lena. Yes. And I was his sister. I guess that stopped mattering when it was inconvenient. The next day, I changed my number. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I just stepped out of the spotlight they never intended to share with me anyway. I moved quietly. I archived our text threads. I filtered photos from old albums. I boxed up a few sentimental things, the card Jake wrote me in high school when I helped him study for his finals, the goofy photo strip of us at the county fair. And I stored them away. Not to forget. But to stop bleeding every time I looked at them. Weeks passed. I didn't hear from Jake again. Not a real apology. Not a word of remorse. Just silence and, I assumed, simmering resentment. I could live with that. Then one afternoon, while scrolling through a forum I follow, a space for quiet stories of betrayal, healing, and boundary setting, I paused. Someone had posted about being excluded from their sibling's wedding. I read it 3 times. Different details, same ache. So I made a throwaway account. I wrote my own story, no names, no location, no identifying specifics. Just the experience. The facts. The hurt. I didn't expect much. Maybe a few sympathetic replies. But it blew up. Within hours, it had hundreds of comments. Then thousands. People shared their own stories. I paid for her dress and wasn't invited. He used my photos for their save the dates and never even called me. My parents went and didn't tell me. I read every single one. I cried through some. Others made me laugh in that bitter, exhausted way only shared pain can. Then came the messages, "Thank you for putting this into words." This made me feel less alone. You weren't the forgotten sister. You were the one with a conscience. The post was reposted on a few bigger pages. Someone even reached out asking if I'd do an anonymous podcast interview. I declined. I didn't want attention. I just wanted truth. Still, the message spread. At some point, someone commented something that stayed with me. "You didn't miss the wedding. You dodged the performance." I saved that. I whispered it to myself like a shield every time doubt tried to creep in. As the days turned into weeks, the storm started to die down, at least on the surface. My parents tried again to reach out, asking if I'd reconsider, if maybe I wanted to talk things through with Jake and Maya. I could hear the desperation in my mother's voice, the weary edge in my father's. But I was done playing the part of the fixer. One evening, Mom showed up unannounced at my apartment. She stood on the doormat with tired eyes, clutching a Tupperware of soup and her old, practiced apology face. "I just want my family back," she said softly. "I know," I answered, and I meant it. "But you can't pretend this didn't happen." She didn't have an answer. She just sat across from me and cried. "We didn't solve anything." She left the soup and a note, "We love you. Please don't disappear." But I was already gone in the ways that counted. Jake, meanwhile, stayed silent. I knew from family grapevine that things were tense between him and some relatives. A couple of cousins refused to see him. Aunt Carol apparently left the wedding gift with my parents, unopened, until Lena gets what she deserves. Maya, according to a mutual friend, started unfollowing and blocking a slew of people as if pruning witnesses from a crime scene. Some guests posted vague stories online, "People love to make drama out of nothing," or "It's wild what people invent when they're hurt." But others countered, sharing quiet support in the comments, or sending me private messages, "I saw what happened. I wish I'd known. You didn't deserve that." My old group of friends from college, many of whom knew Jake through me, rallied in quiet ways, checking in, inviting me out, reminding me my place in their lives wasn't negotiable. Still, the pain lingered. Birthdays came and went. Holidays arrived with awkward group texts and separate dinners. Every family event was divided, like a house with walls nobody could see but everyone kept running into. One night, unable to sleep, I reread the comments on my anonymous post. There were thousands now. Each a small flag planted in the vast, invisible territory of loss. For the first time, I let myself grieve what I'd lost, not just a seat at a wedding, but the years of faith that my love and effort would always be enough. I started therapy. I made new routines. I joined a weekend hiking group. I taught myself to cook complicated recipes, just for the hell of it. Sometimes, the loneliness was sharp, almost physical. Other times, I felt something close to peace, the kind that comes from finally stepping out of someone else's shadow. And little by little, I began to imagine a life where I didn't have to perform for anyone. Where I could just be. The weeks kept passing, and the silence from Jake became permanent. No apology, no late-night call to make things right, not even a single message to explain. Maya vanished completely from my orbit, blocked, erased, and apparently determined to never face me. Our parents still sent occasional group texts about family gatherings, but I answered only with polite declines, and even those faded over time. Eventually, it became clear that if I didn't reach out, I simply wouldn't exist in that part of their lives anymore. Surprisingly, it wasn't rage I felt. It was relief. The ache of being left out had sharpened into a kind of clarity. I'd spent years being the fixer, the supporter, the background character propping up their stories, always expecting a thank you or an invitation that never came. I realized I had been hanging on to a version of family that only existed in my own efforts. I changed my number, quietly. I set up a new email. I unfollowed, unsubscribed, untagged. Not out of spite, but to draw a line where I ended and their expectations began. The post I'd written online continued to ripple. More stories poured in, people who had been excluded from graduations, birthdays, weddings, funerals. One reply stuck with me: "We spend so much time chasing a place at tables that would never set a chair for us. Sometimes the only peace comes when you stop knocking on that door." In therapy, I started to understand that boundaries aren't walls to punish others, they're lifelines to save yourself. I stopped measuring my worth by what I gave or how well I held my pain in silence. A few months after the wedding, a podcast producer messaged again, asking if I would be willing to share my story, even anonymously. This time, I said yes. I spoke, voice disguised, hands shaking, telling the truth as plainly as I could. The episode aired quietly, just another entry in the endless scroll of online confessionals. But the comments flooded in: gratitude, anger, heartbreak, relief. I wasn't alone. None of us were. One night, months later, I wrote a final anonymous post. No details. Just the closing of a chapter. You can give everything and still be cut out of the picture. I spent years believing I was hard to love because I was easy to use. But in the end, I learned. I didn't miss the wedding. I dodged the performance. That was it. No last word with Jake, no big confrontation with Maya or my parents. Just a clean break, a gentler story, and a peace I built for myself.